I'm ready to smash and burn.
No quarter. I am going to be uncomfortable and all over you from start to finish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Outside of the Box. And I am like the most excited today because I have been wanting to have Faruq on this show for some time, and I know that all of you watching have also wanted this. So I'm excited to be doing this today. Faruq, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Hey, I'm looking to have a good time. Thank you.
Absolutely. So you have been a staple on BattleBots since the basically what's considered the modern era of BattleBots. You weren't really super familiar with BattleBots when you first started this, but obviously you've been doing this for a while now. What have you learned about the sport in that time, like that really stands out in your mind?
I think what I learned about the sport at the time that I didn't know is that it's just like any other sport. You got people that are passionate about what they do. They're creative. Their endurance, their grit, their determination, the way they process things. While it may be different than some other physical sports, it still takes a lot of things. Like for instance, people even argue if golf is a sport, right? Because you're not really going up against anybody directly, and then the longevity. But if you ever walked a 18-hole golf course, it definitely takes some endurance and being in shape doing it. Same thing with BattleBots. In order for a lot of these teams that build these bots and get their bots ready to go into that box, it's definitely an endurance sport and a battle for sure.
Yes, especially during 2 short weeks of filming and
Yes.
all of the matches that have to take place in that time. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I mean, not only that, it's the genius and the entertainment, the characters. BattleBots is so much more than just what people think is just nerds coming together building stuff, and you don't even have to be what people consider nerds. Anyway, I think nerds is cool. So be a nerd, go out there, nerd out, do nerdy things, and just keep nerding down because that's what's good. But yeah, man, it's just people that are just passionate about what they're doing. Not everybody has an MIT degree. Not everybody grew up learning about electronics or robotics. Some people were just fans and became passionate and joined the sport. And that's what I love about BattleBots.
Yes, absolutely. For me, I've always looked at BattleBots as like a blend between a sport and, kind of a reality competition. And I think because of the entertainment, aspect of it. And that's something that, you're not a stranger to, as you were on the first season of MasterChef. And it's really funny because, I've watched BattleBots for longer, but when I was pregnant with my daughter in 2016, I got really into cooking shows, and I was like, I'm just going to go all the way back to the beginning of MasterChef and just binge it. And then I was like, that's Faruq. What's happening? But I mean, as somebody who has been a competitor on that type of show, are there like parallels or anything that you draw between that type of competition and like a BattleBots type of competition, or like what's different between them?
I think that the obvious differences are, right, of course, is one is a cooking competition, is the other robotic fighting, destroy, devastation, sparks fly and everything. Both can get hot, but one, humans aren't in danger. So that's where the obvious difference is. But where there's the same is just the competition, the big stage. BattleBots is the big stage for robotic competition around the world. Everybody wants to be there, and it's the same thing like MasterChef. Everybody wants to be on a Gordon Ramsay show and being out there trying to compete. And, that's when you're on the big stage. For me, when I did MasterChef, it was a great experience for me. It really elevated my passion and my hobby for cooking. And it really taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. It's like what you're saying. It's like the similarities between a reality food competition and a robotics reality competition. It's just the fact that it's on a big stage, and sometimes you do things and make mistakes when you're in those situations. I'm sure when not every robot that gets into the box starts up right away. And I'm sure that that's not how the plan goes when they're in the pits preparing and getting in the test box. I'm sure everything works fine. But then when you get out there, it's like, oh, what's going on? Same thing with the reality cooking competition. I mean, I think in one of my challenges, I think I used powdered sugar instead of baking powder in one of my recipes. So, stuff happens.
It does, and then you just have to improvise in the moment and try and make it work. And I think that that's what a lot of the BattleBots competitors have to do. One thing that I wanted to just ask about, because it's fascinating to me, speaking of other things that you've been involved in, a lot of BattleBots fans may not be familiar with Roots Less Traveled that you did in 2020, and that's something that is really interesting to me, because I think as someone who's done a lot of researching into their genealogy, I think more people should do it. You just find so many interesting things out about where you came from. What did you enjoy about doing that? Because that had to be really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking about that show. It was a show that was very important to me, and I got to do a couple seasons of it, and it was great to do. I think what was important about that show, what I learned is kind of like what you were saying, right? When you research your own genealogy, you get so many answers. I was able to provide people with so many answers to not only their ancestry, family myths and legends that's circulating in everybody's family about where they come from. Oh, I'm a descendant of the third king, King George the second or whatever. But being able to identify why, for instance, me, why I do what I do, or why you do what you do. And a lot of times I was able to find that in so many different families, figure out why I didn't. Oh, it's like one of the guys was like, oh, I don't know why I'm so good at mechanics. I just kind of good at mechanics. And then you find out his, three times great grandfather was a mechanic in the Union Army, and all kinds of stuff you find out. And then, you realize things like that. Like one family, he thought he was the only set of twins, and then you found out that his great great grandfather was a twin. And so things like that, and you get so much purpose out of it. And it's there's an old African word called sankofa, and there's a proverb that goes with it and says you have to know where you came from in order to know where you're going. And that's just so much about genealogy and understanding where you came from. It's great stories in it.
Yes. I'm such a fan of great stories, which is part of why I love BattleBots, because it really, it is a story within the show. So many different stories of all of the different teams. But kind of speaking of family, I wanted to ask you, because, I met you briefly at filming, and that was part of when you were walking through the pits with your family, kind of showing them what you do and stuff like that. How was that to be able to kind of, lead that experience and say, hey, this is what I'm involved in? I mean, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, I had a friend of mine tell me that, I had to be like one of the best dads and coolest dads in the world, because like all my jobs are like around like just crazy kid stuff. Like I hosted a monster truck events before. I've worked in video games, and I voice video games. I deal with robots fighting. Like, so, I get to have all these great jobs, and it's just I just really love the opportunity to be able to go out there and do what I'm doing. I kind of got lost in the question again.
Oh, just like the experience of like having family there and getting to show that,
Yeah, having the family there. I think what's really important for me is being able to show them that they can do anything. I didn't know about robotics growing up. I didn't know that I could, even thinking about building a robot was like nowhere near part of anything that I could imagine. And so just being a part of this world and being able to share that with my family and show them other things outside of what we're accustomed to seeing, is really, really, really was great. And that's why I love BattleBots. I mean, family, when I think about BattleBots, I think about family, because so many of the great stories that I even get from fans are about how it's the only time their family comes together is to sit down and watch BattleBots. So I love those stories. So that's what family is all about.
Yes. I mean, really, to me, the BattleBots community is like one giant family,
Oh, for
like
sure.
everybody's so close and supportive of each other. And I think that's great because I don't think that in any other community that I've, been a part of that I've really seen that. Not even in other sports,
Right, yeah,
like
exactly. Like not in other sports, right? Like no other competition is your competitor helping you build the machine that's about to go and fight their machine. Like nobody does that. But BattleBots, that's what it's all about. So I love it.
yes, exactly. You're not going to go to an NFL game and see
Right.
the two teams like interacting back in the locker rooms and be like, hey, maybe like throw the ball this, that doesn't happen.
Right. And not helping each other out with plays and things like that.
Right, exactly. So that's part of what I think is so great about that. Now I have to ask, I mean, I think by now most of the fans understand that you don't write the intros that you do on the show. Um,
Most don't understand that. I still get that question. That's still the number one question I get. But yeah.
um, do you have like a favorite one that you've gotten to do where you're like, oh wow, that was just like awesome to get to go up there and do that?
I've got a list of them. I think maybe one year I'm gonna sit down and maybe try to do like a top 10 or something like that and put together some. But I have a couple favorite ones for different reasons. Like, I love, for instance, I love anytime I get to really introduce Witch Doctor because I get to play like a weird, evil witch doctor type person. But then I love when I got to tease the New England Patriots fans and when they lost the Super Bowl to my Philadelphia Eagles. I love that one. And then I love ones where I get to just like be myself and just go crazy like what I did. And I think it was a tantrum introduction where I literally threw a tantrum inside the battle box. So it was awesome. I love those, some of my favorites.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I think that would be awesome if you put together a list because it's probably hard like going back because you do so many just in a season to remember all of the individual ones. That's a lot. And kind of speaking of, I'm curious what you do to like get through a 2-week session of filming because that is a lot of talking and a lot of work on your voice. How do you make it through that time without having like no voice at all by the end of it?
Yeah, it does take a lot of vocal work. A lot of I definitely got to make sure I warm my voice up before every session. Excuse me, warm my voice up before every session. I make sure I have plenty of throat coat tea and honey and lozenges of all types and kinds. And I'm just constantly drinking water as well, room temperature water. Just keep the vocal cords lubricated because I remember, figure now we're doing what 20 plus episodes in a season. When we first started, we were only doing 6 episodes in this modern era, and so I remember it was just one weekend of shooting, and by the third day, which was our final day of shooting, I literally had no voice left, no voice because it was new. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was getting into it. But then from then on, I was able to really preserve my voice and really keep it going. But yeah, just a lot of training in my voice and steam and all kinds. I have a whole regimen and list of things that I take that I keep my voice active with for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's probably pretty important because if all of a sudden you couldn't speak, I'm not sure what they would do for the rest of film.
Right. And the rest days, the days that we have off, the rest days are very important. I don't, I go and I just kind of just don't talk. If I'm any kind of need to communicate with my family, we texting or whatever the case may be. So the rest days are good too.
That's smart. That's really smart. And another thing that I was curious about is because I know before, at one point, I mean, this was a while ago that you had been asked, who your favorite robots are. Has that changed over time, or is there any of like the newer ones that have come around in the last couple of years that you're like, hey, that's a really cool robot?
For me, sometimes it's hard to move on. I still got the nostalgia, like some of the robots, like Stinger and Nightmare. Like I still love some of those older, earlier edition bots in the modern area. But for me, it's I love when the bots come out with something new. New, whether it's just new weapon or new defense or just a new character of a bot. But for me, Yeah, still a lot of the same goodies that I love. You know, like I said, I love Witch Doctor because I love being able to introduce him. Stinger was one of my favorites with the beef six wheels back in the day. Had like a little lifter, I like that. Um, but yeah, you know, and then I love all the bots. Like I said, it's really for me, it really comes down to the characters of the you know of the bots, the you know the hijinks, the shatters, you know how they look. I like all those too. Those are great.
Yeah, and speaking of characters, I'm curious as well. I think that probably more in recent seasons, I've noticed that when the teams come out, through the entrance and stuff, the antics are a lot more extravagant than they used to be. Has there ever been a time where like a team has come out and just done something ridiculous and like you had trouble keeping composure because it was just funny?
You know, it's been a couple times where that's happened, but good enough for me is that I think I get enough time for them to walk all the way in, you know, to the battle box before I have to do another introduction. So I got time, plenty of time to recuperate. But I remember, I'm trying to remember. You know, I think there was one. I remember there was one. Oh, you know what happened? This is what happened. I remember there was one like I don't know if it was for TV or for just for the audience or whatever while we were doing a live taping. But the two teams.
I'm sure. I think that that would throw anybody off.
I was like, what?
Yes, some crazy things happen on BattleBots
Yeah.
for sure. Like at this point, I mean, I think it was funny because last year, I'm pretty certain it was that somebody had made an April Fool's joke trying to suggest that you were no longer going to be the ring announcer for BattleBots, and so many people took it seriously. But I mean, like I would imagine you still plan to continue doing this at this point.
Hey man, look, as long as they'll have me, I'll be here, man. Like I said, I love the fans. I love the opportunity to come out there and just introduce the bots and have a good time with it and just have fun. So, as like I said, as long as they'll have me, I'll be here. Red square, blue square.
I'm sure everyone would be excited about that. Yeah, and just like what else, obviously besides BattleBots, you do a lot of things. What else do you have going on right at this current moment that you're, working on or involved in kind of the BattleBots off-season time?
Yeah, right now, this is the off season time for me. So right now I'm still, you know, doing working on commercials. I'm doing some commercial auditions and stuff. I actually shot a commercial a couple weeks ago. So that'll be coming out hopefully pretty soon. And then just I'll do a lot of voiceover work and stuff like that. So, you know, I got some cartoons and stuff that I've worked on coming out, been more video game stuff coming out. Currently in the latest Call of Duty, if you play as Hutch, you'll hear my voice. So yeah, just trying to stay busy and keep still looking for work. So
Yes. Well, like I am a big fan of really a lot of animated series because I mean I have a 7-year-old daughter, so she
right,
she
nice,
watches a lot of that, and
nice.
but voice acting work is some tough stuff. But I
Hmm.
think most BattleBots fans will agree you definitely have a very iconic and just powerful voice, and so I think that that suits you well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I'm hoping to look to expand that and take that into some real professional fighting arenas. So we'll see if that comes up anytime soon. So
Yes, absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciated you coming on the show. This was fun. I definitely enjoyed speaking with you, and hopefully, we'll get to enjoy some more wonderful intros for the rest of the season of BattleBots, and look forward to World Championship 8.
absolutely, we got some more intros coming up. So yeah, stay tuned. You know where to watch it. BattleBots on Discovery, 8 p.m. Eastern. Check it out.
Yes, for sure. Well, for everybody that's watching the show, please make sure that you like, subscribe, everything that you do. Keep supporting combat robotics. It's so, so important. And we will see you next time on the show.